My husband thinks I should quit my job to babysit his sister's kids, so I've decided to quit something myself. My name is Anna, and up until recently, I thought I had everything figured out. Adam and I had been married for 3 years, living in a nice apartment in a good neighborhood. We both had stable jobs. I worked at an advertising agency, and Adam managed sales at a sports nutrition company. Our plan was simple: save money, buy a house, and then start a family. We lived carefully, sharing one car, and Adam would drop me at work. Each morning before heading to his office, and in the evenings, I'd make my own way home. It wasn't perfect, but we were determined to make it work and reach our goals. Our life together seemed clear and straightforward, but everything changed when Adam's sister Mary arrived with her 3 kids. Mary's husband had died in a car accident, and Adam's parents were very protective of her, always worried about her being alone. They thought it would be a good idea for her to stay with us for a while to help her recover. When Mary arrived, Adam was really happy. He said it was great to have them there, as he helped her bring in her bags. I tried to be just as enthusiastic, nodding with a smile. I thought it would be nice to spend time together at first. Adam was very devoted to Mary and her children. He played with the kids and listened to Mary's worries. I was happy to help out with the kids, but as the days passed, I noticed Adam's focus had shifted entirely to them. It wasn't just Adam helping Mary anymore. He was asking me to do more and more for her. "Anna, can you help Mary with the kids' laundry? Why don't you take Mary shopping? She needs to relax." I tried to help where I could, but it was exhausting. I had a full schedule. I already had a full-time job and was struggling to keep up with our household. One evening, Adam told me that Mary was going through a tough time. He asked me to be more understanding and help make things easier for her. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I told him I was trying, but I was tired too. I work all day, then come home to cook and clean for everyone. I need a break, but he wasn't listening. "Mary's a single mom. She needs our support," he said, disappointment clear in his voice. The weeks turned into months, and Mary showed no signs of... By the time I got home, I was completely drained, both mentally and physically, after long days at the agency. I'd come home to cook, clean, and care for everyone. Adam had high expectations. He'd complain if dinner wasn't perfect or if Mary needed something I hadn't provided. "Mary doesn't like spicy food." One evening, he frowned at the meal I'd prepared. I bit my tongue to keep from crying. I replied, "I'm doing my best, Adam." He snapped back, "Mary's exhausted. She doesn't have time to cook." I felt like I was losing myself. Trying to keep up with his impossible demands and my own needs were being completely ignored. One night, everything came to a head. I was washing dishes when Adam approached me with excitement in his eyes. He told me that Mary was thinking of looking for a job here in the city. Before I could process what that meant, he continued, "I think you should quit your job and stay home to take care of the kids in the house." The plate I was holding slipped from my hands, crashing into the sink. I turned to him, stunned. "You can't be serious, Adam," I said, but it was Mary who had the final say. He said that I needed to work and that someone has to be there for the kids. He was pretty insistent, as if it were the most logical solution in the world. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like our plans and our future had been completely taken over without my consent. The days following that argument were filled with tension. I refused to quit my job and Adam refused to listen. The final straw came when Mary walked into the kitchen one morning, casually announcing she'd be living with us permanently. Adam seemed thrilled at the idea. We were planning to buy a bigger house anyway, so... "It's perfect," he said. I couldn't believe it. Our lives were being decided without me, and I felt like I had no say in what was happening. I knew I had to take a stand, but I didn't know how to make Adam understand that this wasn't the life I wanted. After that, everything spiraled out of control. Adam stopped driving me to work, always making excuses about being too busy. Mary and her children made themselves comfortable in every corner of our home, and the chaos was unbearable. One day, I came home to find the apartment in shambles with crayon marks all over the walls. The walls were covered in plants, and Mary was lounging on the couch, completely unaware of the mess. When I confronted her, she just shrugged and kept looking at the TV. "They're just kids," she said, as if I was the one overreacting. I felt the frustration build up inside me, and I knew I couldn't keep living like this. That night, I tried once more to talk to Adam, We need to set some ground rules, I said. Mary can't let the kids destroy everything, and she needs to help out around here. Adam just sighed, clearly annoyed. Can't you cut her some slack? She's going through a rough patch. I couldn't believe how blind he was to everything I was sacrificing. I was doing all the cooking, cleaning, and caring for the kids while Mary did nothing, and Adam couldn't see it. As I lay in bed that night listening to Adam's steady breathing, I realized I was utterly alone in this battle. The man I had married was no longer on my side, and I didn't know how much longer I could keep going. Things only got worse from there. Mary started complaining to Adam that I was too strict with her kids. One evening, Adam suggested I quit my job again. I was at my wit's end. You want me to quit? I said, my voice shaking with anger and frustration. Fine, I'll quit. But instead of actually resigning, I spoke to my boss. She was understanding, and we arranged for me to take a leave of absence. I needed time to figure things out and decide what I wanted to do next. I couldn't keep living like this, but I wasn't ready to give up on everything just yet. The following weeks were unbearable. I pretended to be a stay-at-home mom. At that point, I realized that I needed to make a change. I was a stay-at-home wife, doing all the chores and caring for Mary's children, while Adam was praised for any small effort I made. I felt like I was disappearing, my own needs and desires buried under the weight of everyone else's expectations. Then came Mary's birthday, and Adam announced a big surprise, a brand new car bought with money from our joint savings. I was stunned because he hadn't even consulted me. I had been asking for a second car for months, but he had always said we couldn't afford it. Now suddenly we could afford a car for Mary. I decided I'd had enough. I left the restaurant in tears, packed my things, and moved to a hotel. I couldn't live like this anymore. I felt unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. The next day I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight for my own happiness. I'd given everything to my marriage, and it was time to take something back for myself. I was terrified of what the future held, but I knew I couldn't keep living in a situation that was breaking me down. Months later, after a long and exhausting legal battle, the judge ruled in my favor. Adam had to return the money he took from our joint account, and I finally felt some justice. I moved into a small apartment, reconnected with old friends, and went back to work for the first time in a long time. I felt like myself again, free and at peace. It wasn't easy starting over, but each day I felt a little stronger. I had spent so much time trying to make everyone else happy that I had forgotten what it felt like to take care of myself. Now I was finally putting myself first. One day, Adam showed up at my door, apologizing and asking for a second chance. He'd lost his job, and Mary was still relying on him, with no plans to change. He begged me to come back, but I knew I couldn't. I'd found my strength, and I wasn't about to give it up. I wished him well and closed the door, finally ready to move on. The sense of relief and freedom I felt was unlike anything I'd ever known, and I knew I'd made the right choice. I'd spent so long trying to be the perfect wife and the perfect sister. I was finally just being me, and that was enough. Sitting in my cozy apartment that night, I thought about the life I had left behind. I thought about the chaos, the constant demands, and the feeling of never being enough. It was all behind me now. I had a new life, one that I had built for myself, and I was proud of that. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but I also knew that I was strong enough to face them. I had survived the worst, and I had come out the other side stronger and more determined than ever. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future.